All right, scholars, today we're going to be reading parts of Rogue Wave. This is video part 1. So, academic vocabulary. Aspect. A characteristic or feature of something. Cultural. Of or relating to culture or cultivation. Evaluate. To examine something carefully to judge its value or worth. Resource. Something that can be used for support or help. Text. A literary work that is regarded as an object of critical analysis. All right, so Rogue Wave. Background. This adventurous story features a cutter-rigged sailboat. Cutter-rigged sailboats are small sailing yachts, even with a single mast for the main sail and smaller sails up front. Cutters are equipped with a cabin that usually includes a small kitchen called a galley. Author Theodore Taylor wrote many stories about self-reliant characters who face great challenges. His best-known book, The K, depicts struggles of a young shipwrecked sailor. Rogue Wave. Short story by Theodore Taylor. Setting a purpose. Pay attention to the details and events that make this story an adventure. As you read, think about how the author builds a sense of excitement and anticipation throughout the short story. So, scholars, I want you, when you are listening to this, make notes in your notebook or on a piece of paper or on a Google document or something like that of features in the story, so little lines like maybe a line of text or maybe even a word where you are seeing a sense of excitement and anticipation throughout the story. So think of this idea of an adventure story, right? Whenever we watch TV and we see someone going on an adventure, or if we ourselves are going on an adventure, what do we think about? Do we think about facing danger, someone going on a journey alone, someone facing a villain, someone rescuing someone? So think about the features of that adventure story, and let's see if we can find any in this text, all right? A killer wave, known to mariners as a rogue wave, was approaching a desolate area of Baja California below Ensenada. It had been born off the east coast of Australia during a violent storm. It had traveled almost 7,000 miles at the speed of 20.83 miles an hour. Driven by an unusual pattern of easterly winds, it was a little over 800 feet in length and measured about 48 feet from the bottom of its trough, which is the bottom of the wave, to its crest, which is the top of the wave. On its passage across the Pacific, it had already killed 13 people, mostly fishermen and small boats, but also an entire French family of 5 aboard a 48-foot schooner. Melissa Scoot Atkins went into the old Sea Dog's tiny galley, moving down the 3 steps of the companionway, closing the solid entry doors behind her. Always a good idea in offshore sailing. The 3 horizontal hatchboards that were on the top of the doors were also firmly in place, securing the 30-foot bobba type against the sudden invasion of seawater. Why do you think they use the word invasion of seawater? If she is sealing a door just so water doesn't come in, the author could have said that she was securing the door so water couldn't come in or couldn't leak in, but she used the word invasion of seawater. What kind of feeling does that give the story? So that's word choice. The author had a word choice here, and they picked invasion. What kind of feeling does that give us? Write the answer to that question down in your notes, okay? Also, we talked about Melissa Scoot Atkins. She's going to be the main character of this book, right? So what do we call the main character who is not the bad guy or the enemy in the book? We call that the protagonist. So Melissa's going to be the protagonist. She's the main central character. She's the good person in the text, right? All right. So rogues and sneakers have been around since the beginning of oceans, and the earliest sea literature makes note of giant waves. In the U.S. Navy Manual, Practical Methods for Observing and Forecasting Ocean Waves says, in any wave system, after a long enough time, an exceptional high one will occur. These monstrous, outsized waves are improbable but still possible, and the exact same time of occurrence can never be predicted. Naval hydrography. All right, guys, so let's break down that word. Graphy. We know that hydro means having to do with water, right? Hydro and graphy, taking a graph of something, right? So hydrography is going to be graphing of the water, right? So there are studies that indicate the waves 15 to 25 feet, high quality for sneaker or sleeper status. The freak rogue is up to 100 feet or over. As waters slowly warm, they seem to be occurring more frequently. In 1995, the Queen Elizabeth II, the QE2, the Great British passenger liner, encountered a 95-foot rogue south of Newfoundland. More than 900 feet long, the QE2 rode over, but her captain said it looked like they were sailing into the white cliffs of Dover. Sullivan Atkins, Scoot's oldest brother, was steering the cutter-rigged boat on a northerly course about 15 miles off the desolate Cabo Colnet, south of Ensenada. Under a brilliant sun, the glittering blue Pacific Ocean rose and fell in long, slick swells, a cold, light breeze holding steady. Below deck, Scoot was listening to Big Sandy and his fly-right boys doing Swinging West and singing along with them while slicing leftover steak from last night's meal. They grilled it on a small charcoal ring that was mounted outboard on the starboard side at the stern, trailing sparks into the water. The Sea Dog had every blessed thing, including a barbecue pit, she marveled. Scoot was learning how to be a deep water sailor. She was 14 years old and pretty, with dark hair. Though small in size, not even 5 feet, she was strong. She'd started off with 5-foot sabots. On her trip, her first aboard the Sea Dog, she'd manned the wheel for most of 3 days they'd been underway. She stood 4-hour watches at night. Sully was a good teacher. So again, let's look at these vocabulary words. Hydrography. The scientific description and analysis of the Earth's surface waters. Good. So let's take note of that word. Let's copy down the definition. Outboard on the starboard side. Positioned outside and on the right side of the boat. Let's write that down. Outboard on the starboard side. Positioned outside on the right side of the boat. And then swell. A swell is a long, unbroken wave. It's a noun. And deck. The deck is the platform on which a ship or boat where people stand. It was one of those perfect days to be out, Sully thought. The 3 Dacron sails belayed and whispering, white bow waves singing pleasant songs as the fiberglass hull, tilting to the starboard, sliced through the ocean. It was a day filled with goodness, peace, and beauty. They'd come south as far as Cabo Colnet, turning back north only an hour ago. They sailed from Catalina Island's Avalon Harbor, the Sea Dog's home port, out in the channel off Los Angeles. Sully had borrowed the boat from a family friend. Bo Tucker, a stockbroker with enough money to outfit it and maintain it properly. Built by Tashing of Taiwan, she was heavy and sturdy with a teakwood deck and a handsome teakwood interior, and the latest in navigation equipment. Sully had sailed her at least a dozen times. He'd been around boats, motor, and sail for many of his 19 years. He thought the old Sea Dog was the best in her category that he'd ever piloted. Navigation. The navigation of a ship or boat is the act of guiding it along a planned course. As he was about to complete the northeast tack, Sully's attention was drawn to a squadron of seagulls diving on small fish about 100 yards off the port bow, and he did not see the giant wave that crept up silently behind the Sea Dog. But a split second before it lifted the boat like a carpenter's chip, he sensed something behind them and glanced backwards, towards the towering wall of shining water. It was already too late to shout a warning to Scoot so she could escape from the cabin. Too late to do anything except hang on the wheel with both hands. Too late to even pray. He did manage to yell as the Sea Dog became vertical. She rose up the surface of the wall, stern first, then high-pitched pulled violently. End over end, the bow submerging, and the boat going upside down, taking Sully and Scoot with it. The 40-foot mast, sails intact, now pointing toward the bottom. Scoot was hurled upward, legs and arms flying, her head striking after the galley bulkhead, and then the companionway steps and interior deck, which was now the ceiling. She instantly blacked out. Everything loose in the cabin was scattered around what had been the overhead. Water was pouring in, and it was soon lapping at Scoot's chin. It was coming from a 4-inch porthole that had not been dogged securely, and a few other smaller points of entry. So let's go over. So we have navigation, submerge. When something submerges, it's a verb, it becomes covered by water. And porthole. A porthole is a circular window on a boat or ship.